Some say Hollywood was built on dreams, but those dreams left behind empty mansions with stories darker than any script. These abandoned estates once hosted the world's biggest stars, witnessed tragedies, and now stand frozen in time, forgotten relics of Hollywood's golden age that you can still visit today. From mysterious deaths to restless spirits, these 7 mansions reveal what happens when the spotlight fades but the walls remain. What makes these places so fascinating isn't just their architecture or famous former residents, it's the eerie feeling of stepping into a world where time stopped. These aren't museums with velvet ropes and tour guides, they're real places where Hollywood legends lived, loved, and sometimes met unfortunate ends. And the strangest part? You can still visit them today. Tucked away in Silver Lake's winding hills sits the Paramour Estate, a mansion with a past as dramatic as any Hollywood film. Built in 1923 by oil heiress Daisy Canfield and her husband silent film director Antonio Moreno, this 22,000-square-foot Mediterranean masterpiece was designed to make a statement. With its ornate stucco facades, sweeping marble staircases, and panoramic views of Los Angeles, the Paramour represented the pinnacle of 1920s luxury. But the estate's glamour quickly faded into tragedy. In February 1933, while returning from a party in the early morning hours, Daisy's car veered off Mulholland Drive, leading to her tragic passing under circumstances that raised eyebrows across Hollywood. Some whispered about a tragic end, others about foul play, but the truth died with her on that foggy mountainside. After Daisy's death, the mansion began its strange journey through multiple identities. It became a convent for Franciscan nuns, then a school for orphaned girls, and even a rehabilitation center. But no matter how many new purposes it served, the Paramour couldn't shake its past. Former residents and visitors report cold spots, unexplained footsteps on the marble stairs, and glimpses of a woman in 1930s evening wear drifting through hallways. By the 1990s, the once grand estate had fallen into significant disrepair. Crumbling walls, peeling paint, and overgrown gardens made it a shadow of its former glory. But its haunting beauty attracted filmmakers and musicians looking for authentic atmosphere. Music videos for Adele, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Marilyn Manson were filmed within its decaying walls. The mansion also appeared in episodes of True Blood and scenes from Scream 3. Today, the Paramour Estate exists in a strange limbo. Partially restored but still carrying the weight of its troubled past, it hosts occasional events and photo shoots. Visitors describe an unmistakable heaviness in the air, as if the mansion remembers everything that happened within its walls. The sprawling gardens with their cracked fountains and weathered statues create a dreamlike atmosphere where past and present blur together. What makes the Paramour truly unique is that unlike many abandoned Hollywood mansions, you can actually rent it if you're brave enough to spend a night where Daisy's spirit allegedly still roams. Just don't expect to sleep soundly as footsteps echo down empty corridors and doors open on their own. Deep in the winding roads of Laurel Canyon hides a crumbling estate shrouded in as much mystery as the man whose name became attached to it, Harry Houdini, the world's greatest escape artist. The fascinating truth? Houdini never actually owned this mansion, but the connection between the property and the legendary magician proves that sometimes in Hollywood, myth becomes more powerful than reality. Built in the early 1900s as a magnificent Mediterranean villa, the estate features stone terraces, hidden caves, and rumored secret passageways that would have delighted someone like Houdini. The truth is that Houdini rented only a guest house on the property in 1919 while filming The Grim Game, one of his rare Hollywood ventures. His brief stay somehow morphed into an enduring legend that the entire estate was his personal domain. The mansion's real transformation from luxury estate to eerie ruin began in 1959 when a devastating fire ripped through the main structure, leaving behind blackened stone walls and charred remnants of its former grandeur. Nature slowly reclaimed what remained, with vines crawling over fractured archways and trees growing through cracked foundations. The estate's hidden grottos, rock pools, and terraced gardens became overgrown, creating a maze of forgotten spaces. Urban explorers and thrill seekers began sharing stories about mysterious phenomena at the property, unexplained cold spots, equipment malfunctions, and the feeling of being watched. Never mind that Houdini died thousands of miles away in Detroit in 1926. The estate's connection to a man who specialized in illusion and escape seemed too perfect not to be haunted by his restless spirit. What makes this abandoned mansion particularly alluring is its accessibility. Located near popular hiking trails, the Houdini Estate became an unofficial landmark where the curious could glimpse remnants of old Hollywood through broken windows and crumbling walls. Photographers captured haunting images of empty stone fireplaces framing views of the canyon and staircases leading to nowhere. In recent years, partial restoration has breathed new life into some sections of the estate, yet much remains abandoned, frozen between renovation and ruin. Today, you can visit parts of the property for events or private tours, walking the same stone pathways where Houdini briefly wandered over a century ago. The mansion stands as a perfect metaphor for Hollywood itself, built on illusion, sustained by legend, and forever blurring the line between what's real and what's merely a convincing performance. When you picture Hollywood royalty, you likely envision a mansion exactly like the Beverly House, a place so grand it feels more like a private palace than a home. Built in 1927 for banking tycoon Milton Getz, this pink terracotta estate sprawls across nearly 50,000 square feet with 18 bedrooms, 25 bathrooms, and grounds that stretch over 3.5 acres in the heart of Beverly Hills. The Beverly House reached legendary status when newspaper magnate William Randolph Hearst, the man who inspired Citizen Kane, moved in with his longtime companion, actress Marion Davies. Their residence transformed the mansion into a nexus where Hollywood stars mingled with political power players and press barons. John F. Kennedy and Jackie spent part of their honeymoon here. The mansion's 30-foot living room hosted gatherings where decisions affecting both the film industry and American politics were made over cocktails and cigars. The estate's distinctive H-shaped architecture, with its hand-carved ceilings, two-story library with hand-carved woodwork, and Olympic-sized swimming pool, made it instantly recognizable. Film buffs might recognize it from iconic scenes in The Godfather, where the famous horse scene was filmed, and The Bodyguard. But size and grandeur came with considerable costs. By the early 2000s, despite its cinematic pedigree and historical significance, the Beverly House struggled to find a permanent owner willing to shoulder the burden of its maintenance. Listed repeatedly with price tags exceeding $100 million, the mansion languished on the market for years while parts of it slowly deteriorated. Whispers spread about empty wings where furniture gathered dust under sheets, gardens that grew wild despite gardeners' efforts, and swimming pools that sat stagnant. A mansion designed for entertaining hundreds sat eerily quiet except for the occasional film shoot or private event. Security guards patrolled grounds that once hosted presidents, but now mainly serve to keep unauthorized visitors and photographers at bay. The Beverly House represents a particular kind of Hollywood abandonment, not the dramatic ruin of fire or sudden tragedy, but the slow decay of something too grand for its own good, too expensive to maintain, too historic to demolish, and too large for modern living. It existed in limbo as a beautiful white elephant. Today, you can glimpse the Beverly House from afar on certain Beverly Hills tours, though access to the property itself remains highly restricted. Its pink walls and red tile roof rise above carefully maintained hedges, revealing little of the quiet emptiness inside. The mansion stands as a monument to Hollywood's obsession with scale and grandeur, and the inevitable abandonment that follows when even millions cannot sustain the unsustainable. Not all of Hollywood's abandoned mansions remain standing. Some live on only in photographs and the stories of those who once walked their halls. Perhaps none is more legendary than the Garden of Allah, which began as a private mansion and transformed into the most infamous hotel in Hollywood history before disappearing completely. Originally built in 1913 as a private estate called Havenhurst, the property found its destiny when purchased by silent film star Alla Nazimova in 1919. Known for her exotic beauty and unconventional lifestyle, Nazimova renamed it Garden of Allah, a clever play on her own name. By 1927, facing financial difficulties, she converted her mansion and its sprawling grounds into a residential hotel, adding 25 Spanish-style villas arranged around a legendary heart-shaped swimming pool. The Garden of Allah quickly became Hollywood's most exclusive address and notorious playground. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote there while struggling with personal challenges. Dorothy Parker held court with her razor-sharp wit. Humphrey Bogart, Errol Flynn, Greta Garbo, and the Marx Brothers all called it home at different times. The bungalows became known for wild parties where careers were made and changed overnight, where romances began and marriages ended, and where the rules of conventional society simply didn't apply. What made the Garden of Allah unique was its atmosphere of discretion combined with decadence. Stars who would be hounded by photographers and fans elsewhere could relax, enjoy drinks during Prohibition, conduct private affairs, and behave as they pleased behind its walls. The garden wasn't just a hotel, it was an escape from the very fame its residents had pursued. By the late 1950s, however, the Garden of Allah had lost its luster. Hollywood's golden age was fading, and new, modern hotels offered amenities the aging property couldn't match. The once crystalline swimming pool clouded with algae. The glamorous villas showed their age with peeling paint and leaky roofs. The garden became a shadow of itself, abandoned by the stars who once fought for reservations. In 1959, developers purchased the property for $755,000, replaced the historic hotel with commercial buildings. The Garden of Allah was erased from the landscape, though not from Hollywood's collective memory. Today, only a small plaque at 8152 Sunset Boulevard marks where this legendary mansion-turned-hotel once stood. While you can't visit the Garden of Allah physically, you can stand on the spot where Hollywood's most infamous address once welcomed the beautiful and damned. The McDonald's and bank that now occupy the space give no hint of the secrets, scandals, and creative genius that once flourished there, a perfect example of how completely Hollywood can abandon even its most storied landmarks. High above Benedict Canyon, accessed by a winding private road that seems designed to discourage visitors, sits what remains of Falcon Lair, the dream home of Rudolph Valentino that the silent film heartthrob barely lived to enjoy. This Spanish-style mansion, purchased by Valentino in 1925 at the height of his fame, represents one of Hollywood's most haunting stories of abandoned potential. Named Falcon Lair for Valentino's planned film, The Hooded Falcon, which was never made, the estate was designed to reflect both the star's public image and private passions. Behind imposing gates, the mansion featured arched doorways, wrought iron details, and sweeping staircases that complemented Valentino's romantic screen persona. The grounds included stables for his beloved Arabian horses and spectacular views stretching from canyon to ocean. Valentino poured his heart into creating this sanctuary, personally selecting furnishings and overseeing renovations. But fate had other plans. In August 1926, just months after moving in, Valentino collapsed in his New York hotel room. Days later, at just 31 years old, the world's greatest lover passed away from complications of a perforated ulcer, leaving Falcon Lair eerily empty. The mansion's subsequent history reads like a Hollywood script about faded glory. Tobacco heiress Doris Duke purchased it in the 1950s, removing many of Valentino's original touches. After her death, the property fell into disrepair as ownership disputes dragged on. Urban explorers who managed to peek inside reported crumbling plaster, water damage, and an atmosphere of profound melancholy, as if the house itself mourned its original owner. Rumors of paranormal activity swirled around Falcon Lair for decades. Security guards reported hearing footsteps in empty corridors. Visitors claimed to glimpse a dark-haired figure in the gardens. Horses in neighboring properties would inexplicably become agitated when passing the estate, as if sensing something unseen. Whether these stories were genuine experiences or simply the product of Valentino's legendary status remains debatable. In 2006, much of the original mansion was redeveloped, despite preservation efforts. Today, only portions of the original structure remain: stone walls, archways, and foundations that offer ghostly outlines of what once stood there. The stables where Valentino's horses once pranced now lie empty, with only wind whistling through broken windows. For the determined visitor, glimpses of Falcon Lair can still be caught from certain vantage points in Benedict Canyon. The property remains privately owned, with access strictly forbidden. Perhaps this inaccessibility only enhances the mystique of a place that represents Hollywood's tragic pattern, creating monuments to fame that ultimately become monuments to loss. In the elegant curves of Beverly Hills Easton Drive sits a white colonial mansion that should have been a love nest, but instead became forever associated with Hollywood's darkest chapter. This was the home of Jean Harlow, the original blonde bombshell and one of the biggest stars of early Hollywood, and her husband, MGM executive Paul Byrne. Their luxurious residence became infamous not for who lived there, but for who died there. The mansion at 9820 Easton Drive was a wedding gift to Harlow from Byrne when they married in July 1932. With its columned facade, swimming pool, and manicured gardens, it represented everything a Hollywood power couple could desire, but the dream quickly transformed into nightmare. On September 5, 1932, barely 2 months after their wedding, Burns' body was found in the bathroom with a fatal wound to the head and a cryptic note nearby. Official reports ruled Burns' death self-inflicted, citing marital disappointment, but Hollywood whispered darker theories. Some claimed Byrne had a secret first wife who killed him in jealousy. Others suggested MGM executives staged the incident to protect Harlow's reputation from a scandalous divorce. The truth died with Byrne that night, leaving only questions and the beginning of what many call the Easton Drive curse. Harlow couldn't bear to remain in the house after Byrne's death. She moved out immediately, but tragedy continued to follow her. Just 5 years later, in 1937, Harlow herself died from kidney failure at the shocking age of 26. Two occupants who later lived in the house also reportedly passed away under similar circumstances, fueling rumors that something malevolent lingered within those elegant white walls. Over decades, the mansion passed through numerous owners, none staying long. Residents reported inexplicable phenomena, lights turning on and off, objects moving on their own, and most disturbing, the overwhelming feeling of despair in the master bathroom where Byrne's life ended. Maintenance workers often refused to work alone in certain rooms. House staff would quit without explanation after only days on the job. The mansion gradually deteriorated as its dark reputation grew. Gardens once featured in architectural magazines became overgrown, paint peeled from walls. The swimming pool where Harlow once posed for publicity photos turned cloudy and cracked. The house that represented the pinnacle of 1930s luxury became a decaying reminder of Hollywood's capacity for tragedy. Today, the mansion has been partially restored, though it remains largely private and inaccessible to the public. Occasional glimpses through gates reveal a property caught between past and present, beautiful, but forever shadowed by events that transpired nearly a century ago. For those who know Hollywood history, simply driving past this address sends chills down the spine, making it one of the most hauntingly abandoned mansions in film history, even when technically occupied. Most mansions become abandoned after their owners die or move away, but Howard Hughes, billionaire, film producer, aviation pioneer, and legendary eccentric, abandoned his mansions while still alive. His sprawling estate in Hancock Park represents perhaps the strangest case of Hollywood abandonment. A mansion left empty not because its owner couldn't afford it, but because he refused to enter it. Hughes purchased the Colonial Revival Mansion in the 1940s during his heyday in Hollywood, when he was dating stars like Katharine Hepburn and producing films like The Outlaw and Hell's Angels. With its imposing facade, grand entrance hall, and formal gardens, the Hancock Park estate embodied old money elegance, a surprising choice for a man known for innovation and breaking boundaries. As Hughes's mental health deteriorated and his obsessive-compulsive behaviors intensified, he began avoiding his own properties. By the 1950s, though he technically owned multiple mansions across Los Angeles, Hughes lived in none of them. He moved between hotel penthouses, becoming increasingly reclusive, while his grand homes sat fully staffed but eerily empty. The Hancock Park Mansion entered a surreal state of suspended animation. Staff maintained immaculate rooms that no one used. Fresh flowers were arranged weekly for no one to see. Meals were prepared according to Hughes's preferences, though he never arrived to eat them. Security guards protected a property whose owner had essentially vanished. Former employees described the mansion's atmosphere as increasingly ghost-like, pristine but purposeless. Hughes would sometimes call with bizarre instructions about the property's maintenance but never visited. Rumors spread that certain rooms were sealed with tape, exactly as Hughes had left them decades earlier. Others whispered that the mansion contained secret documents revealing government conspiracies or innovations too dangerous for public knowledge. After Hughes' death in 1976 aboard a private jet en route to Houston, his Hancock Park estate became the center of legal battles among potential heirs. The mansion remained in limbo for years, its contents undisturbed as if waiting for an owner who would never return. When finally inventoried, the house reportedly contained filing cabinets with decades of untouched documents, closets full of unworn clothing, and technology that had become obsolete while still in original packaging. Today, the mansion has changed hands multiple times, though many believe it never escaped Hughes's peculiar energy. Subsequent owners reported finding strange modifications, extra filtration systems in the ventilation, unusual lock mechanisms on interior doors, and other adaptations that spoke to Hughes' growing paranoia about germs and security. While no longer abandoned in the traditional sense, Howard Hughes' Hancock Park Mansion represents something uniquely disturbing, a home abandoned not by death or financial ruin, but by fear and mental illness. Its perfectly preserved rooms stood as a monument to a brilliant mind unraveling while the world watched from a distance. These 7 abandoned mansions tell a story about Hollywood that no documentary ever could. They show us what happens when the cameras stop rolling, when the parties end, and when all that remains are walls that witnessed both triumph and tragedy. Each mansion reveals something different about fame's true cost, whether it's the Paramour's lingering spirits, Falcon Lairs' unrealized dreams, or the Beverly House's unsustainable grandeur. Which of these abandoned mansions fascinated you most? Was it Valentino's dream home he never got to enjoy? The hotel where Hollywood's greatest writers and actors created their own private paradise? Or perhaps Howard Hughes' perfectly maintained time capsule, abandoned by a man who owned it but feared to enter it? Let us know in the comments below. If you're intrigued by Hollywood's hidden history and the stories that never made it to the screen, hit the like button and subscribe for more videos exploring the forgotten corners of entertainment history. Sometimes, the most compelling Hollywood tales are found not in what remains, but in what was left behind.